And speaking of Atlanta, only 4 of the Atlanta Falcons have been to a Super Bowl before, but they do have the NFL's #1 scoring offense and the potential MVP in Matt Ryan. And one of their many star weapons is feeling pretty confident. Devontae Freeman saying this: "We can do whatever we want. Pick your poison. We've had the game plan. The game plan doesn't change." Max, who should the Patriots be focusing on defensively?
Well, the Patriots generally should focus defensively on taking away as much as possible that 5-out offense that the Falcons run. You know, because the whole thing is they have receivers who can beat their man. You know, they will win those matchups. So you got to load up the back, load up the outside, and force them to beat you with the running game, which I think has 2 advantages if you're New England. One, as good as the running game is, what makes them special, what makes Matt Ryan special, is the passing game to those receivers. 2, kind of hard to score a ton of points running the ball compared to throwing the ball, which is what the Falcons do. So you do have to pick your poison. Devontae Freeman is right with this team. You have to, because they have many ways they can score. And I think what Belichick will pick is the running game. Go ahead, beat us. Let's see if you can beat us with the run. And also, by the way, New England has a stout run defense anyway. They're good defending against the run anyway.
Number 3 overall. But here's my thing. I think the key is Tevin Coleman. I know Devontae Freeman can run the football. I know the combination of them coming out of the backfield is a lethal threat. I like this Tevin Coleman catching passes out of the backfield. I think that's going to be a big, big deal with New England. Now, obviously, you got Julio Jones, and Mohamed Sanu is obviously a viable secondary option. Good pickup from Cincinnati. We get all of that. And Taylor Gabriel is no joke. We understand that, too, because he's a speed. He can make things happen. He can be electrifying. But I think if you're Bill Belichick, you can predict those kind of things. Right. What happens is that when you just throwing swing passes out of the backfield and dudes are making plays, you know, without running the football, those guys, when you look at New England, even though their strength is to some degree in that front seven, even though McCourty and Chung and those boys can play, the fact of the matter is that they're older now, right. The age situation that you talked about, and when you got young studs that can make things happen with their feet, where it ain't about this, but it's about your physical ability, that's where Coleman and Freeman come into play, particularly Coleman, who I like catching passes out of that backfield. I think he could be a key component. If Atlanta wins this game, I think that he will have a lot to do with it.
I think with Devontae Freeman, and people are jumping on his comments, I think they were the right comments. Those are things that we would say. All right. Now, as the media is concerned, they think that it's probably a little bit cocky coming from Devontae Freeman, when I don't think so. He's absolutely right. He understands that Bill Belichick is going to have to pick his poison. Now, who is he going to pick? I'm with you. He's going to pick the running backs. Let's go back to the Super Bowl, I believe, in New Orleans, where the New England Patriots played against the St. Louis Rams. They took Marshall Faulk out of that offense. Defensive ends coming up the field, you bang Marshall Faulk before he comes out. So he's not a valuable asset in the passing game. Now, in the running game, you clog up the holes, force them to run outside. That's something that the Atlanta Falcons are very successful with. They like to hit the A and the B gap inside, and if they run outside with a toss sweep, then now that's the play call. So if they're running inside, clog up the holes, force them to run outside. Now, when I look at this Bill Belichick defense, and we can go back to the Pittsburgh game, they tried to take Le'Veon Bell out of the game, but Le'Veon Bell took himself out of the game because of injury. It wasn't about Antonio Brown. It's not going to be about Julio Jones. I expect them to double-team guys like Sanu and then bring a safety.
You expect them to double-team Sanu?
Because this is the reason. You double-team Sanu, you have Malcolm Butler versus Julio Jones. But you also put a linebacker underneath him. You put Malcolm Butler deep. Malcolm's not going to play man-to-man versus Julio Jones. I would not do that, nor would Bill Belichick do that. Because remember, going back to 2004, even though T.O. was on 1.5 legs, they still had guys like Asante Samuels out there. T.O. came out of that game with over 100-something yards receiving.
122.
And that's the thing. They tried to take Westbrook out of the offense. And so I expect Bill Belichick to have that same mentality. Take the running backs out. Let Julio Jones have his game where it might be a 100-yard game, 105. Question. But don't force anybody else.
I'm interrupting because of a question. Yeah, you had other receivers.
Right.
Pinksters of the world, if I remember correctly.
Who had a big first half.
That's right. But at the same time, you know, it was T.O., and then there was a significant drop-off in terms of whatever you had to go with. So Westbrook was obviously your secondary option, but at times throughout that season was a primary option, covering the team. I mean, Westbrook was a bad boy. Right. I'm saying to you, when I look at Julio Jones, everybody else is a Westbrook in terms of that secondary option. You had T.O. and then Westbrook. On this Atlanta squad, this Julio, But then all of those other guys that we mentioned, Gabriel and Sanu and Coleman and Freeman, and they're on the same level. Well, how you gonna pin that down if you're Bill Belichick?
The whole thing about it is, and even Pittsburgh tried to do it. Wherever Rowe is lined up, their third corner, you go after him because he's not a good cover corner. He's not a good cover corner,
small.
And he's a little small. He's not quick either. Right. So his hips aren't as loose as you see of a Malcolm Butler or even a Ryan. So you attack him, and if your running game is on point, all of a sudden you start to see the halfback screen be a major factor. You start to see the tight end and the check down, which we had L.J. Smith a couple of times, because their linebackers for New England aren't cover linebackers. Right. They're run stoppers. They can't run sideline to sideline very well like we see from Atlanta. So the way that you attack them is in that middle part of their football field and force them to run outside the hash.
When I think about what does Belichick want to do, I'm not just about scheme. I'm talking about where are you going to devote extra resources. You only got so many guys on the field on defense. Where do your extra resources go? To me, they don't need to devote extra resources to the run stopping because they do that well.
They're pretty stout.
They're stout there. And if go ahead, Atlanta, beat them running the ball. That's not.
But Atlanta's not going to try to run, Max.
Well,
I don't think they're going to try to run.
No, but if you dare them,
they are really a balanced offense.
They'll
yeah,
run.
They will.
If you send extra guys outside and back, right, and deep, then you're daring them to run, and they have running backs. Well, they will.
Right.
Well, what I'm saying to you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to word it that way. I'm not saying they won't run per se or they can't run. I'm saying to you that going up against Bill Belichick, knowing what we all know, they know it too. Quinn knows it. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, you're going to go like this. Why? You're going to do what Donovan McNabb did. Why do I need to constantly run the football when I could just dip and dunk it to one of these guys? You see what I'm saying? It's like that forces your linebackers ultimately to become cover guys. Now it's not like you're running the football, but at the same time, it's not like you even passing it, but you're making them get away from
using your running backs without handing it off. You're using your running backs without handing it off. You're making them evade from their comfort zone, and that's how I believe you can attack New England's linebackers.
Well, you're talking about ways of attacking them, but this is now Bill Belichick attacking what you're trying to attack by banging them before they get out of the backfield. Now, for defensive ends, Chris Long and those guys coming upfield, they see the running back getting wide, you bang them. Now that takes them out of the offense and the value of a receiver, and you can focus on the guys deeper. So when you have Sanu running 12-yard routes, you have Julio Jones running that 25-yard route, there's a safety over the top. There's a linebacker underneath Sanu. The back hasn't gotten out yet because he's been banged in the back of the backfield. That's what makes them successful. But if he has a free release, meaning Coleman and also Freeman, if they have free release and they catch the football, linebackers have to make that tackle.
And I guess what I'm saying is whether it's Gabriel or Sanu, instead of them running 12-yard routes, you have them run a bit deeper. That way guys can't cheat by coming up.
There you go.
That's how you're going to have to do it. Make them all go a little deep.
They've been a special offense all year. They're an historically great offense. They're among the all-time greats. What makes them special? Matt Ryan recognizing guys who are open and getting them that ball, the receivers, right? That's what really makes them special. And I think that's what Belichick has to take away, because the Falcons are going to want to dance with who brung them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I just don't want to hear anybody comparing them to Houston in this regard. Osweiler is not Matt Ryan.
Well, it stops right there.
It stops right there.
It stops right there.
It stops right there.